There comes a moment when you've exhausted all your options while simultaneously coming across a product that reinvents your notion about what an honest and high-quality company looks like. The Healing Rose was the catalyst to that very moment for me. The Healing Rose Company is a female-owned Massachusetts CBD company based out of Newburyport that prides themselves in using only the best USDA-certified organically sourced ingredients for their vast line of therapeutic products. Their line stretches from lip balms, tinctures, skin balms, roll-on oils, and bath products. Their transparency places them above the rest with third-party tested results showcasing their intolerance to toxic pesticides, solvents, metals, and harmful elements. They provide full-spectrum CBD in many of their products, excluding their tinctures, which carry a broad spectrum profile, ideal for not having to worry about any low-level THC, which is common for many CBD products. That one's my favorite, and it's good on the palate. Full spectrum means that they extract from the hemp plant an array of different therapeutic cannabinoids along with CBD and their profile terpenes. The combination results in a greater outcome of healing and relaxation for any individual's needs. Whether you are an athlete looking for any recovery advantage, a patient in need of some relief to remind yourself that you are still a warrior, or someone who sees the frontiers of life with a little reserve and want to calm the mental storms that keep you from personally exploring, the Healing Rose CBD Company is here for your full body and mind optimization. Please visit thehealingroseco.com to explore their diverse line of products and support one of New England's best rising stars in an industry where ethics are fundamental, and a company like this will only be found sitting at the throne of it all. Use the code SAGAS, S-A-G-A-S, for 10% off your purchase. Again, visit thehealingroseco.com and use the promo code SAGAS at checkout for 10% off your purchase. To the many martial artists, entrepreneurs, dreamers, and thinkers, how often, for your own sake, would you love a symbolic reminder of your mentality and the perfect dichotomy to match? Murder Nerd is an independent clothing apparel line that represents the sharp, relentless focus towards personal growth and athletics. It embodies the vitality of their creative owners and the network of people who run on the same frequency. Why not elevate your frequency in comfort and style? Visit www.murdernerdsfitness.com for their personal line of shirt and hat wear. Enter the promo code SAGAS, S-A-G-A-S, for 10% off your purchase. Again, visit murdernerdfitness.com and enter the promo code SAGAS for 10% off your purchase. And here we are again, sweating once more. All right, I gotta get this out of the way quick. I want to address something. I want to say thank you to everyone who has given their time to listen to the podcast and give the really heartfelt responses. I've gotten phone calls, texts from people, and I just want to say that actually means a lot to me. And, I hope that this is whatever you expected it to be, because I know sometimes it can kind of be full of a lot of different tangents and might even feel like it goes off the rails sometimes. But this is very much a thing where I'm just kind of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. So there's no real format to it. I hope people get something out of it if you do listen to it and you enjoy it. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who reached out to me. And I also want to address that I'm excited for a couple of friends of mine who actually pushed themselves to even get a sauna. Like, some of you guys told me that you got saunas, and I love that. And I hope that your sauna treats you as good as mine has treated me, because I love mine. I love it, love it, love it. Obviously I try to do these things when I'm in the sauna, but I'm in the sauna more than I want to do these things. So I could be in this almost every day if I could. So I'm happy that you guys got them, and I hope you enjoy them. I wanted to throw one last random thing in there. I've only figured this out in this last week or so, but I've never used I guess you would call it a pulsation massage gun. And I think there's two classes, pulsation and vibration. And I'm not going to break down what distinguishes those two. I think it has to do with the millimeters between how much the driving kind of tip kind of moves, and I guess the speed of it and how it interacts with the muscle. But I think they can be a little bit similar. But I had a good friend of mine actually let me use his. And you use these on sore muscles and all that. And I would use this also on my wife because she's got some like sore fascia. And it doesn't have to even be just muscles. It can be fascia, right? The fascia can be tight, very restrictive, and that can take a little more time to loosen up. And it can hurt a lot more. So you got to be very careful using these massage guns. But man, the bit that I use it on me, I loved it. I use it on my shoulders. I'm trying to use it on like my glutes and like the back sides of my hips, just because I'm not very flexible in that way. So because of that, I've been able to get a lot of weird kinks and things just out of my joints and stuff, and it's helped me exercise a little more. And I had another friend of mine actually tell me even a couple weeks ago that he bought one, and he's had some really chronic issues for a long time. And I mean, he went at it like an animal. He just kind of, I'm sure he put it on high and just kind of dug right into the muscles, and he gave himself bruises. But he's gotten rid of some of the things that have been bothering him for almost 10 years. So he's more mobile now. He can actually work out in the way that he used to, without fear of tearing something or further hurting something. So if anybody is curious about this, the one that I'm borrowing is a Hypervolt. The one that I think I might purchase myself is called the Opove, O-P-O-V-E M3. It's a difference of about like $100 or so, and I'm just going by reviews, and why not spend less money if you feel like the quality is the same. So, you do your own research. There's tons of different types, but this one was just comparable to the one that I borrowed. So I wanted one very similar to that one. And I love it. Between the sauna and that, supplementing those two with just trying to have a good active life and not getting hurt. Two huge tools that I never realized would work this well. Those guns come with different attachments, good for the spine, small sections of the joints. They have smaller tips. They have bigger, wider tips for just kind of massaging out like larger muscle groups. So it's neat how it works. So I just kind of want to throw it out there real quick at the beginning of this, because I know people have reached out and told me how much they like the saunas. So I enjoy if people are kind of engaged in their health in that way. And if anything that helps me, I totally want to tell everybody about it. And if it helps them, that's great. That's, an active life, a healthy body makes a healthy mind, I think. And, I don't think there's much, I don't know what else is more important than a healthy mind, really. So whatever you can do to push that, then let's do it. So more to the point that I wanted to try to make, and this is kind of something this is going to be about something that I'm trying to practice now. So I hope I don't butcher this in how I'm interpreting these feelings, and then how I'm trying to mitigate them. But It has to do with something I didn't even really know the word for it. I just did it. But I used to do this a lot. And I think a little bit of this kind of goes into the woe is me type of shit. And I know that I used to do that, and it's easy to when you're younger and you feel that you're the center of the universe, right? The universe should be helping you out type of stuff. But, it's this idea that when something is said or something happens or a circumstance unfolds, you kind of go from like 0 to 100. And I used to do that a lot on just anything, right? Like you get a certain light in your car, like the engine light turns on. Instead of, I'll address this, or maybe even if you knew anything about your car, you could say, I just need an oil change because I'm going way too far, right? Sometimes those things turn on when your car senses that you've gone past that 3,000 or 5,000 mile mark. So instead of thinking like that, it would be, oh, great, something's going to go. My tires are probably going to fall off. Come to think of it, I think my catalytic converter is making noises. And now I think now my muffler is going to break, and I'm not going to pass inspection. And how am I going to get to work now? And right till the end game is like you're in the streets, under the sun with half a bottle of vodka, and it all came from a fucking light on the dashboard. And I used to do that. It's a convenient and easy way, I think, to think that way. And it also, I don't know, there's something about it that just, it made me feel like I took it off my lap, and now it's like, it's now the world's responsibility to somehow throw me a bone, feel bad for me. This is the shit that happens to me. And I've gotten a lot better with that, but I think the last couple of days I've just been running on this kind of very uncomfortable frequency. And, if you know a little bit of the backstory, you know that I'm in a circumstance where I think I'm constantly trying to combat triggers, and I don't know why I don't like that word. I want to figure out a different word to say, but I'm just going to use it for now. But I'm trying to avoid triggers. And what I mean by triggers is I get very triggered when if I'm going through the day and I get a sign that, to be honest, really, if I get a sign that my wife is not feeling good, right? You're always trying to tell yourself this story that all right, today's good, today's fine, you're not interacting. I'm not interacting with her constantly. So I don't know. Obviously, I have to go to work. I gotta do my shit. So you just kind of paint this picture of just, all right, today's okay. Maybe we'll have signs of where the needle is now, right? Have we moved the marker in the health? And, I ruminate over this every day. It's the everyday waiting to see, how do I avoid a trigger? How do I avoid hearing, nope, not doing good? Just that, right? Just that. And I ruminate and I avoid and I combat. But when it happens, it's unreal how fast my demeanor changes. And it's embarrassing because I feel so weak. I feel so fucking weak that in a moment, things that were bright are so dark now. They're so dark. And it's to, what's the word? Catastrophize things, right? It's a catastrophe. Somehow not feeling good, whether it's one point of pain or all the points of pain in her body, whatever it is. It goes from that to, well, I know how the rest of today goes. Well, now I know that I'm going to have to manage this for the next 2 hours. Well, I know that I'm going to have to do that tonight, and then probably have to do this tomorrow, and I won't be able to do this on this weekend, and then it keeps going. Like I've taken out the brakes to a train with like 20 cabooses on it, and it just spirals into looking at my daughter while I read her books and contemplating, are you going to be okay? Am I going to be okay if you're not okay? What's going to happen if this somehow reaches you, right? Am I going to be able to do this all over again with my daughter, right? Like, I already live in a way that's running on this paranoia. You'd call it PTSD. Like, I inundate her with so many things that supposedly are going to kind of elevate her health, right? And I know it's going to sound strange, but you know, you can appropriately give children kind of a leg up when it comes to maybe certain things with their health. And you can do that with like supplementation, right? Little probiotic gummies, little vitamin C gummies, keep the immune system up. Omegas, so that they get the good fats for the brain, so that it helps them cognitively. It helps the microbiome of their gut, right? Like, disease comes from the gut. That's what one philosophy is. So I'm already doing all of these things, and I don't know if that's, I would say that's healthy, but where it comes from is from a very terrified place. So, you know, I'm doing all these things, yet I get one sentence thrown at me, and I'm already but okay, I'm gonna say this, but I don't want to put a lot of stock in this, so I'm just kind of over exaggerating, all right? But I hear these things, and it's like I'm getting to a point where everyone in the family's sick, and it's like I'm just looking for the next, like, I'm looking for a way out, right? And you take that for what that is. Obviously, I would never do that, you know? But this is how kind of embarrassed I am at this, you know? I get to the point where, like, what? You want to hurt yourself because of just like this, you know? Like, why? You can't do that. How do we find a way to create a stronger mind? Because this isn't going to change overnight. And this isn't going to change in whatever small window, I guess, you want it to. So you're going to have days where people just don't feel right. You're going to have days where people don't feel like they're progressing. And it's just devastating. It's devastating, and it ripples into just thinking about everybody else in my life. And it's made me incredibly obsessed with just health and trying to make the right decisions because I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but as of right now, there is no cause for what's happening to my wife, right? And with the literature that I've read, which is incredibly extensive, there are corners of this literature that talk about just the awakening of like essential sensitization aspect, where your thoughts, your habits, your traumas, your paths of thinking attribute to just a cascading effect of just stress. And if you're susceptible to having your central nervous system become compromised because of all these factors, then you find the key and lock and you turn it, and all of a sudden manifestation happens, right? So in my mind, I'm just like, oh, okay. And this can be a rare thing. This doesn't happen to everyone, but this is a little bit of why, and this isn't what she has, but this is why CRPS or fibromyalgia is such a weird phenomenon for people. Yes, there are some causes, but so many things are idiopathic, which means doctors have run out of ways of diagnosing it in their scope, right? So you find somebody who has a wider scope, but whatever. So because of that, my mind says, all right, things could wake up. Like epigenetics could now kind of blow up in your face if you don't think the right way, if you don't behave and act and eat the right way, and it becomes obsessive, you know. And unfortunately, it makes me scared of everything. It makes me scared of just indulgences, you know. And I don't push my way onto anybody, but it's, God, I think so much more about the real ramifications of health. It's not just like, oh, I'm a little overweight. It's like, you don't know that you might have that epigenetic system where you're susceptible to something like an autoimmune disease waking up by just behaving a certain way for a certain amount of time. Some people can do whatever the fuck they want their whole life and never get anything. And I hope that that's most people. But for some people, it's not. And I don't want to roll the dice. I don't. So, you know, with this catastrophizing thing that has been going on lately with me, and it's hard, man. It's like I go to sleep and I wake up just kind of in a fast flash of just anxiety and just I don't know, I get these moments where I kind of feel like I'm grieving a life that's kind of losing, like it's losing itself. And that's a fucked up feeling to have. And I don't like really feeling that way, never mind sharing that. And it's not all the time, but that's what it feels like. It feels like everything is just kind of leaving me behind. Because you just feel stuck and life goes on. So, you know, in trying to redirect and get better at this catastrophizing kind of phenomenon, like, I find, you know, I've gotten some advice, and it kind of comes down to something that I thought I used to really practice, and I did because of a very, very bad kind of like circumstance I've had before. But it's kind of this, you know, the way you dismantle this is kind of an old Buddhist way of looking at things. It's like, well, then just sit with your suffering, right? Sit with the suffering and suffer. Feel what you feel, right? This kind of, and maybe this is a misinterpretation, but this like stoic way of just kind of, I brush things off because things don't bother me, you know? That, you don't get a free pass with that, right? And like I said, maybe that's a misinterpretation. Maybe stoicism is about actually understanding your feelings, you know, and maybe having control. But, I don't know enough about that. But I know that, sometimes we attribute the stoic demeanor to a lot of mostly men that don't seem to have a problem with things. Yet we wonder why we're dying earlier than women, right? Inability to express ourselves better, correct, listen to ourselves, share shit, So, like I said, my interpretation might be wrong, but there's a piece of a misunderstood stoicism that's kind of fucking a lot of people, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm sure I am. But the point is that in this kind of Buddhist way of looking at things and just sitting with your suffering, to break it down to a more of a layman like myself, it's like, all right, let's sit with it and then just say, all right, what if, right? Well, what if what? All right, what if your daughter gets sick, right? Oh God, I don't want to think about that. I don't want to bring on the sickness, right? If we're going to go down this road of like, you think it, you bring it, right? But the idea is that, okay, if she gets sick, let's think of this in the most objective kind of logical way that you can with the knowledge that you have now. She gets sick? Okay, when does she get sick? Maybe she gets sick in 10 years. Maybe she gets sick in 20 years. Where will we be in 10 to 20 years? Will we be better off in 20 years? What are the things that are in kind of our toolbox now that there will be a better version of in 10 years? What kind of healthcare is on the verge of blooming in the next 5 to 10 years, right? Because I've done the research for now. We're doing a lot of different things right now, but there's a lot of things that are in the pipeline that are exciting just for people in general when it comes to healthcare. If we mainstream the better parts of, like, what do you call it? Like protein re-engineering, right? That's what CRISPR is. We might be able to bring down symptoms or reverse or make it so that we never have hereditary problems. We never have bad gene mutations, right? That's around the corner. We're already treating people with these things. We're already treating people with certain types of nerve issues. Nerves are hard to grow back. There's things in the pipelines that are helping with calling on the body's own growth factors to like hyper accelerate the regeneration of nerves through that process. And we can do it ourselves, but we could do it even faster, right? One example maybe would be stem cells. But that's another one that's, if you can take away the controversy around it, is going to accelerate like fucking crazy. So, okay, 10 years, 20 years, where will we be? It's a mixture of just kind of knowing what you know, applying it so that it helps this situation, knowing that you'll survive, that you'll make it through it, that every time you've catastrophized about something else, it's never come to be, right? It's never come to be. And even when I've worried about certain things that are, I guess you would say that they're worried about things that could easily happen more than the devastation of a sick child, a devastation of just having a family just in bed 24 hours and you're the only caretaker running around, not knowing what to do, how to help, what to do with yourself. Like, that's a nightmare. We don't need to think this way. So every time there's a worry, and we've come along and gone down the road of time, those scenarios, they've always worked out. They've always gone and swung the other way. So some of that should be applied to this, to the extreme, where I may be prepared. Yes, it'll be difficult, but we'll be okay. There's nothing terminal about this. That doesn't mean that there isn't a lot of unfortunate pain and hopefully suffering that could be helped. But we're going to be in a different place and in a different time, and somehow or another, the work that we've done now, the work that at least I think I've done now, will allow me to stay afloat a little better in the future when maybe another brick falls off of this wall, right? I'll know how to catch it. I'll know how to put it back, maybe. So, for whatever reason, I've had to remind myself of this, and I think I need to do that more because it gets very fucking dark. And I hate myself for that. And once you get a good night's sleep, right? That always helps everything. Good night's sleep. Sleep on it. You get up, you do feel a little bit of a reset. And it's like, all right, remind yourself. So what if? What if? What if? And then just go with the best options of how actually things would pan out. And if you can think clear enough, and if you know enough details about it, you can most likely come up with more positive points to how to help this scenario than negative, right? And if you're not an optimistic thinker, I would say it might be harder to collect more positive points, more positive ways of kind of reinforcing that things will be okay, right? If you've only got one, then you're banking on one positive. But if you know how to go through this and you have experience, 10 is so much stronger than 1 in this scenario. And then you'll have maybe a little less fear, and then maybe, we're almost there. And then when we get to that point of catastrophe, we can kind of deconstruct it a little faster, And, I didn't get into it, but it's like, I know a piece of this is a codependency, right? In the sense that, like, I got to stop assigning my happiness to their happiness. Because if they're not happy, if they're not happy because of that, then I'm never happy. So how do I detach from that? I need to detach from that without feeling like I'm leaving anybody behind. Because to me, that's kind of a heartbreaking nightmare. I'll never leave anybody behind. But I got to find a way to not be so attached so that it makes it easier for me to catastrophize. Because I think they're linked. But, in reminding myself of some of these old books and some of these old readings that I used to really embrace, that sitting with my suffering and becoming pragmatic with it and how I can kind of break it apart is very helpful. It's very helpful. And it's kind of scary in the beginning because we have all these mechanisms to kind of get away from fear, get away from what hurts us. So sitting with your suffering is the last thing that you want to do. But, and this isn't me saying this, I really do believe that this is a universal truth where that is how you find a way to kind of slay that dragon, is to kind of meet it in the cave, right? If you don't want this thing to kind of ravage the town, then you go to it, right? You bring that torch with you and you walk right in there. And you'd be surprised at kind of how you come out of that cave once you've spent enough time in there. So I don't know, I had to let this out, and I think this helps because I've been in a funk in the last couple of days, and I think just talking and saying this, like as I say what I'm practicing, then I'll remember it more, and I'll just put it into practice in moments where I really, really need it, because that's been the biggest problem in the last, I'd say, really couple of years, is just that trigger, just that quick trigger from just putting too much of myself in how somebody else feels, and when they're not at their best, I crumble, and I'm over it, and I'm just tired of that. Tired of it. I'm not useless to anyone when I'm like that. So I don't know, get this off my chest. Thought I'd share kind of what helps me, and hopefully a little piece of that kind of sticks or sounds reminiscent of maybe what anybody else does, because I'm just trying to learn this as I go. So, alright guys, thanks for listening.